Hello everyone, I am the Black Enigma, and welcome back to another Silent Hill video. In today's video, we're going to be focusing on Silent Hill 4, The Room. And of Silent Hill 4, The Room, we're going to be talking about the main antagonist of that game, Walter Sullivan. Now, when discussing Walter Sullivan, people would think that Walter Sullivan is this gutless killer, gutless murderer. But when I did my research, I sympathized with this character because he had no guidance. He was abandoned when he was young, and he only knew one thing when he grew up, and was raised by the wrong types of people. So they instilled their ideas in him at a young age, and they lied to him, beat him, that the practices they teach were instilled and locked in his brain. So I don't believe Walter Sullivan is a gutless murderer. Yes, the things he did were horrible, but when you dive deep into the character, you will see those deep-rooted issues come to light and realize why Walter Sullivan did what he did. And that's what I hope to accomplish in this video. So hope you stay tuned. Without further ado, this is more background stories of Silent Hill. Born in 1967, Walter was already at a disadvantage, even at the young age of an infant, because his parents did not want him. His parents, in particular his father, was very abusive, while his mother just stood dormant because she was scared of the father, and so she was likely submissive to anything. So anything the father had went with, the mother would go. Anything the father said was final. 34 years before the events of Silent Hill 4, Walter's parents lived in the city of Asheville in room 302 of the South Asheville Heights apartment building. Walter didn't have the chance to grow up, nor even get to really know his parents. His parents were not meant to be parents. His father was abusive, shouting things to an infant baby you wouldn't believe. And Walter's mom was very scared of Walter's dad because she saw how the father acted. That's why she stayed quiet and very submissive, which is no reason you should protect your child in all arrangements, all cases, no matter what it is, even if it's against the father. But the mother stood back and let the father berate the infant. And Walter was only an infant at the time. The couple fled their apartment and abandoned the newborn Walter in the living room of 302. Since the apartment was the first thing Walter saw as an infant, it became embedded in his brain that the apartment building was actually his mother. The other world explained throughout the game, as well as the monsters which inherited, were created by Walter. They symbolize his past, his fears, and his views of society. Frank Sunderland discovered baby Walter in apartment 302. He gave the baby to the nearby St. Jerome's Hospital. Frank also kept Walter's umbilical cord in a box in his room, feeling that it was too precious to throw away. After a stay in the hospital, Walter was adopted by the Witch House Orphanage in the forest near Silent Hill. It was at this orphanage where he started to learn the ways of the order and where he was given the name of Walter Sullivan. In his childhood, Walter was forced into reading the order scriptures. If he misbehaved, he was sent to the round cell, which is known as the water prison, where you eventually visit to in the game of Silent Hill 4, where a tenant of the Ashfield apartment buildings, Andrew DeSalva, would physically abuse him along with the other children of the orphanage. Walter was mentally damaged by those in the orphanage, whether it came from being heavily disciplined or physically beaten. When Walter was 6 years old, he met Dahlia Gillespie, the main antagonist of Silent Hill 1. She came to the witch house and told Walter that his mother was asleep in Ashfield, and that if he did a good job reading the 21 sacraments for the descent of the Holy Mother, he would be reunited with his mother once again. For years, Walter continued to travel to South Ashfield, as almost as if he was possessed, just to peek into the apartment building. One tenant in particular by the name of Richard Braintree began to complain and treat him badly whenever he seen Walter hanging around the apartment room. That made Walter fear the tenants, and he saw them as obstacles that are trying to prevent him from reuniting with his mother. On one particular Ashfield trip, a 16-year-old Walter encountered a little girl. This girl was a 5-year-old named Eileen Galvin. Out of sympathy for the homeless Walter, Eileen handed Walter her doll and told him he could sleep with her doll so he wouldn't be lonely. This encounter with Eileen inspired a profound sorrow within Walter, to which he cried uncontrollably, because that little 5-year-old girl was the only person in Walter's life who was kind and nice to him. Walter cherished that doll Eileen gave him that night. Walter also approached Cynthia Velasquez in the train station when they were both teenagers, and she embarrassed him in front of friends, and they met a decade later and the same result happened. And that is what possibly led to her ultimate demise later on in the game of Silent Hill by the hands of Walter. As Walter became older and mature, he became more and more influenced by the teachings of the Order. Through their teachings, Walter believed that the deaths of 21 victims would help him free his mother. At the age of 24 in Ashfield, Walter began the 21 sacraments by murdering 10 people in as many days as possible, by removing their hearts and carving numbers into their bodies, each matching the out of 21 role they played. The first corpse had 0121 carved into it. The second corpse had 02121 carved into it. And the third corpse had 03121 carved into it. And that number continued until he reached 10121. A death report stated that Walter was captured, tried, and convicted, and was thought to have killed himself by stabbing himself in the neck with a metal spoon and severing his carotid artery while in prison. Joseph Schreiber, the current resident of room 302 at the time, was a journalist investigating his case. In his red diary that you discovered throughout the game, Joseph firmly believed that the real Walter Sullivan never died at the prison, and that it may have been someone else who committed suicide, or that the person who the police arrested was not the real Walter Sullivan. A few days after the Walter Sullivan suicide, several residents of the South Ashfield Heights apartment building witnessed a long-haired man with a coat in the apartment building. Through his window, Richard Braintree saw the man moving something heavy and doing something in room 302. Frank Sunderland also saw the man with the coat hanging around room 302 and confirmed there were signs of someone having been in room 302. Joseph Schreiber was convinced that the real Walter Sullivan was still alive. Somehow, without Joseph observing him, or before Joseph moved into room 302, Walter entered room 302, possibly using a portal under Walter's crucifix, and performed the ritual of the Holy Assumption in the storage room. In doing so, Walter was released from the bonds of the flesh to gain the power of heaven. Casting aside his physical body, his other worlds were created, and Walter became the 11th sacrament. Joseph apparently sealed the storage room 7 years later after Walter's crucifixion. Why Joseph sealed the storage room and if Joseph found Walter's corpse is unknown. The game never fully clarifies this, although it is possible that Joseph was also trapped in room 302 and found Walter's corpse but couldn't take it out, so he paved the storage room so he wouldn't have to be near Walter's corpse. 3 years later, another body, Peter Walls, was found killed in a very similar manner to Walter's previous victims, and the numbers 12121 were carved into the body. Peter's body was estimated to have been killed 6 months ago. The police suspected a copycat, though the heart was not removed nor was a name carved into the body. This is because Walter already obtained the blood of 10 sinners. Joseph developed his own theory at this time. He believed that the police failed to capture the real Walter Sullivan and began to investigate Walter's life in conjunction with earlier investigations into the order. Eventually finding Walter's grave in a cemetery near Silent Hill, or what was believed to be Walter's grave, Joseph discovered no one was inside the casket and that the numbers 11121 were carved into the coffin. 2 more bodies, Sharon Blake and Troy Archibald, surfaced over the next few weeks, carved with the numbers 13121 and 14121 respectively. Joseph Schreiber went missing from room 302 shortly after, becoming 15121. It is implied Joseph became trapped in room 302 and was killed by the ghost of Jimmy Stone, who was Walter's first victim. The police failed to realize that the middle number in the number sequence of 01121 up to 14121 were actually a slash, meaning the numbers turned into 01 out of 21 and 14 out of 21, meaning that Walter intended to kill 21 victims in total, hence the name of his 21 sacraments. Another 4 years later, Walter begins round 3 of the 21 sacraments. Walter is first heard of in the subway world, having murdered Cynthia. Henry Townshend also sees Walter's younger manifestation in the forest world, Walter prison world, and the building world, respectively. Walter murders Jasper Ginn, who is a willing participant, just to see what the 21 Sacraments is all about, by setting him on fire and carving the numbers 17 out of 21 on his body. Walter kills Andrew DeSalva in the water prison world, and he kills Richard Braintree in the building world by electrocution. In the apartment world, Henry sees Walter briefly knocking on Eileen Galvin's door and walking away. A few moments later, he finds him sitting on the staircase, and Walter tells Henry about his experience with meeting Eileen many years ago when he was younger. He offers Henry the shabby doll that Eileen gave him. Though the item has no use and will only cause it haunt him, the player picks it up.
I got this from Miss Galvin a long time ago. She was younger than me back then. She looked so happy, holding her mother's hand. Here, I'll give it to you.
When Henry enters Eileen's apartment, he discovers her bleeding on her living room floor. Walter assaulted her but not killed her, thanks to the hands of Walter's younger manifestation, who saved Eileen from getting killed by Walter.
This place, it's dangerous. You need to hurry. Get out of here.
Walter later chases Henry and Eileen throughout the forest world and the water prison world, usually wielding a handgun, chainsaw, or pipe. Later in the game, in the building world, Henry witnesses Walter kidnap his younger self. At the bottom of the spiral staircase, Joseph explains what he's learned to Henry about Walter Sullivan, completing Henry's role as the receiver of wisdom.
Born Eileen Galvin. Number 21. The receiver of wisdom. Henry Townsend.
Going back into the current room of 302, Henry used the pickaxe of hope to discover a secret room in between his bedroom and his bathroom. There, he discovers the corpse of Walter Sullivan nailed to a cross and finds the keys of liberation in the corpse's coat pocket. Henry will eventually use the keys of liberation to enter the apartment world and do everything in the apartment world to get back to room 302, where he will discover the portal underneath the corpse of the crucifixion of Walter Sullivan. He will enter the portal, and in that portal he will find the core of room 302, where he will eventually find Walter's younger self, and Eileen.
Hey there, little Walter. Just a little longer now. Henry, you're it. The last of the 21 sacraments. The final sign. The receiver of wisdom.
And you will commence in a boss fight with Walter. After the boss fight with Walter, Walter is killed in each of the 3 endings, the endings being in the escape ending, the mother ending, and Eileen's death endings. In each of those 3 endings, Walter is killed. Walter's younger manifestation disappears into thin air. However, if the player achieves the 21 Sacraments ending, Walter is revealed to be still alive and is seen motionless in room 302, where his manifestation falls asleep on the couch, happily to finally be reunited with his mother again. While adult Walter watches on as he too is reunited with his mother.
Apparent murder victims and a 6 severely wounded female were discovered. The woman was immediately rushed to St. Jerome's Hospital, but died a short time later of her injuries. She has been identified as Miss Eileen Galvin of Ashfield. The last body discovered was found in room 302 of the South Ashfield Heights apartment. It is believed to be that of its occupant, Henry Townsend. The body was reportedly disfigured beyond recognition, making identification impossible. Once again, we've got late-breaking news. 5 unnamed police officers have been found dead for reasons unknown in the South Ashfield Heights apartment, with its superintendent, Mr. Frank Sunderland. All other residents of South Ashfield Heights have been rushed to St. Jerome's Hospital and complaining of severe chest pain. These strange incidents are similar to the ones which occurred in Silent Hill some years ago. More news to follow.
And that'll be it for the background story of Walter Sullivan, the main antagonist of Silent Hill 4. If you enjoyed that video, please make sure to leave a comment down below and a thumbs up if you do not mind. Doing that helps the channel grow, and I very much appreciate it. If you want more of these Silent Hill videos, let me know in the comments below also. And until next time, I will see you guys for more background stories, especially in the town of Silent Hill. You guys take care. I'm out.